Hi, so today we are going to be looking at really the core of our legal studies business, and that is legislations. So last term you got a little bit of a taster with looking at the Drugs Misuse Act, and you probably heard us mention the Criminal Code. What we're going to look at today is exactly what legislations dictate criminal offences, and there are quite a few out there, but it's important that you know just the main ones. Legislations are something that you should be familiar with researching and looking up yourself. They are written in really simple English. They can be overwhelming and they might seem really complex, but once you get to know them, you realise they're quite easy to understand and you can navigate them really well. It's what the police officers need to know to be able to charge you with an offence. So they start to learn all the different sections of the legislation. And ultimately, if you ever want to prove somebody wrong about what is an offence or isn't an offence, you just simply go to the legislation. So let's get started. Um, see if I can get this moving to the next screen. All right. So all criminal offences in Queensland are contained within legislations. Now, just to confuse you a little bit more, another name for legislations might be statutes. So you might hear somebody say that's within the statute. Sometimes they're referred to as acts or otherwise laws. So because all of our criminal offences are in legislations, it means they are written down somewhere. Okay, so they're very specific, they're very explicit, and they are written down for the police officers to be able to view and the general public, lawyers and other legal personnel. Different legislations contain different types of laws. So the Criminal Code Act 1899 Queensland lists the primary criminal offences in Queensland. So that lists the majority of criminal offences. Now, what I want you to note is you can see here that I have italicised the legislation. Now, that's what you always have to do if you're typing it in an assignment. If you're writing it in an exam, then you would underline it instead. You should always have the year here. So we know by looking at this legislation that it was first created in 1899. So since then, there have been amendments, which means things might have been repealed or taken out of the Act, or things might have been added into the Act. But that's ultimately when it first was developed. And then you can see here we have Queensland QLD, which means that it is a state-based legislation. This has no authority or jurisdiction in New South Wales or Victoria. Sometimes you'll see a CTH. That means it's a Commonwealth legislation, and we are bound by that as it's a Commonwealth law. So really important to know those things. Criminal law is actually different from state to state. So New South Wales has slightly different rules and laws and punishments. So aside from the Criminal Code Act, so you'll mostly hear me talk about that this term. There's some other ones. Now the Drugs Misuse Act, they contain our drug offences, and you should remember hearing about that from last term. We have the Summary Offences Act, containing summary offences, or another name for those are simple offences. And we have the Regulatory Offences Act, which contains the regulatory offences. Now, the next part of this lesson is going to be you learning about all of those different types of offences. Now, all your legislations are available online. So you can simply Google them and you look up the PDF versions. They're the most user-friendly I find when I'm looking at law. And within these legislations, it not only states the offence, but the penalty or the sentence that can be imposed for that offence. So what I'm going to do now is show you some of the offences. So here, if I looked up the criminal code, so I just searched criminal code, you're wanting to always look for Queensland. So I can see here, this is the Queensland one. And the key word I'm looking for is PDF. So you want the PDF one that comes up. So if I click on that, you're going to see, and that's how all the legislations exist. And if I scroll down, I find the contents really handy. So that's one way I look at things. And you can see if I scroll down this, it's got a whole load of different offences within it. So we can see, oh, there we go, a prize fight is an offence. You can see abuse of office, influencing voting. You might go down and we can find perjury. So many different ones. There's just pages and pages in this criminal code. You've got all your different assaults here, suppression of a right, and so forth. Now, if I wanted to go and have a look and go, oh, I would really like to look at what the definition of assault is, the best way of going to it is you can actually click right there. So you can see this is the definition of it here. This part here, you can see 245, we call that the section. So it's section 245 here. And then that's subsection 1. So if you were ever to quote it, you'd go section 245, subsection 1. Now, my other best friend when I'm looking at legislations is the Control F function. So I'm always using this. So I might want to look at the offence of murder, go, all right, I really need the definition of that. So I can see, okay, here's the punishment of murder. Might want to look up that. There's attempt to murder, accessory to murder, threats to murder, lots of different ones there. And you can just go down until you might find exactly what it is that you want. So that's a really good technique. So most of your crimes or your criminal offences are within the Criminal Code. Then you've got the Summary Offences Act. Now some of the ones that you might know, so these are your more simple offences. You can see there public nuisance is one. Urinating in a public place, don't do that. It is an offence. Maximum penalty is 2. You can see here, I'll go down, is 2 penalty units. Now, a penalty unit is equal to $133. So could be a $266 fine there. And a couple of other ones like that. Willful exposure, there you go, don't do that either. Your final act that we mentioned was your regulatory offences. So if you have a look here, it should come up. There we go, your Regulatory Offences Act. And you can jump on these, and these are also your more simple offences or regulatory offences. So you can see here, leaving a hotel or a restaurant without paying, or unlawfully taking away of goods as well for a shop. So you're talking about like shoplifting and things, stuff that's to the value of under $150. So there you go. You should know after watching this video 4 different legislations that refer to criminal law, criminal offences. You've got the Criminal Code Act 1899 Queensland, you have the Drugs Misuse Act 1986 Queensland, you have the Regulatory Offences Act 1985 Queensland, and you have the Summary Offences Act. So there you go, there you have it. Hopefully you'll be able to list those off and identify them and have fun searching them up yourself. I will see you later. Make sure you do your next lot of activities, which is going to take a little bit of time, and you're going to have to wade your way through that, but I'm here for questions, so hopefully I will hear from you.